to put you in a blessing ball in front of me. And I just ask that our session today be filled with truth. And that is illuminating your truth, finding your truth, holding yourself to your truth, connecting you even deeper with your truth, nobody else's truth. I also ask that our session today be filled with clarity. So this clarity will then allow you to step into your divine truth. Beautiful. I'm just asking to have you connect in deep with source energy. Just that love, that universal consciousness, whatever word most resonates with you. If you do work with any angels or spirit guides, I ask you go ahead and call them in as well too, so we can have the biggest shifts possible. Beautiful. And I'm going to put myself in a blessing ball, and I'm just going to ask that our session is filled with truth, me connecting into your truth, me allowing your truth, me connecting into what might be of the highest truth for you. Beautiful. And then I'm just going to ask for clarity, that I'm able to assist with providing clarity. This is like Windex for the windows, clarity, crystal clear. And then also asking that I am able to drop any of my personal filters and just allow the cleanest, purest channel to come through. Beautiful. All right, so let's go ahead and drop into the space of what might come through on our end, within our heart, within our mental chatter, is blame and shame. And blame and shame usually is coming into the space of also guilt. So blame, shame, and guilt are all of the same energetic vibration. And so within blame and shame, let's just take a moment to feel that in our bodies. So seeing if we can pick a story or a situation in which blame and shame is there with us. And then seeing if you can find that space in your body. So blame and shame within your body. So feeling into your body, feeling into the space. It feels a little bit like your nervous system. So if you were to feel into your body, feel into the space of blame and shame, where would you feel this? Beautiful. You might feel this in your tailbone, in your root chakra. You might feel this in your belly, your sacral, your feeling center. You might feel this in your heart as well too, just that heaviness, that burden that sometimes we feel in our chest and on our backs. You might feel blame and shame within your throat, perhaps for words that weren't said, or spaces where your jaw tightened up. You just weren't able to speak what you felt was your truth because there was blame and shame and guilt sitting in that space. And then it might also feel a little bit like your crown chakra. It might be a disconnection actually from your crown chakra. So just the crown chakra not being online. Yeah, so if you were to lean into and just kind of relax your body and feel into the space of blame and shame, where are you feeling this? You can also kind of feel it as a collective, kind of on the shoulders. Feels like the weight of the world. So let's open up this blame and shame space just a little bit here. And blame and shame comes in two different forms. So blame and shame can start into the space of where we are blaming ourselves. We are shaming ourselves. Shaming would be like criticism. So we're criticizing ourselves. We're beating ourselves up. We're shooting that second arrow is what you hear often in the spiritual teachings. One arrow was shot and here we are. We are then going in even deeper into that space. And we are causing this blame and shame on ourselves. So that is the second arrow you hear in spiritual teachings. So it's the space in which we're starting off with that pattern in our energetic field in our bodies. We're just holding it. And then there's also a space in which others are coming into our vibration, into our energy, into our mental space. So this would be like somebody's trying to blame you. And then you're going to go into a defense mechanism because we were taught wrong and right. There's no space in which two people can have their own realities, right? So if something doesn't feel right to one person, they're then going to take that wrongness and put it on somebody. And then maybe you happen to be in the way of that wrongness. So they're going to be coming into your space. They're going to be trying to dominate you. They're going to be trying to offload their energetic ickiness because inside they can't be wrong because they can't hold two realities at one time. They can't be right and that other person can't be right. So it's in the space in which we have somebody trying to manipulate, somebody trying to offload their energetic ickiness onto somebody else because of somebody else's wrongness, right? So that is going to be something like a domination. So somebody's coming into your space trying to kind of dominate over you, dominate into your energetic field, and you do that by blaming somebody. Now, you could be blaming somebody and you could be doing it in a dominating way, or you could also be blaming somebody in this victim way as well, too. So thinking into the space of blame, blame is offloading. And if somebody could be offloading this into your space, but also just be conscious of, well, maybe this doesn't feel good, but there might be a story or two in which you are offloading the blame, you are offloading what you feel like is wrongness onto somebody else because you can't be wrong versus, oh, whatever, doesn't matter if I'm wrong or right. Like I have my reality and you have your reality, and we both can just sit in our own realities, right? So we're just moving into the space in which it gives us an excuse to separate ourselves from somebody else. It gives us an excuse to play in duality. So in that lower vibration of duality, right? So it's wrongness and rightness. So that is the space of duality. That is the space of our 3D dimensions, right? So this space is sitting here within us, emanating outwards, our wrongness, our rightness, the space in which we are blaming ourselves for the situation. We are blaming others. This could be critic, but a lot of this will also then too dive into guilt. So we sit there with that feeling of guilt as well too. And we could also be accidentally putting guilt into others. So just a little example, as I caught myself the other day while speaking with my 14-year-old son, in which I was trying to guilt him into something. I was trying to guilt him into. So I went into the space of parenting, this sacred relationship that I have with my beautiful child, who is such a beautiful teacher. Right? And I was trying to manipulate him to do something, and I used the space of guilt. So I taught him duality. I taught him to be motivated by trying to please me. So I just taught him that accidentally. And I caught myself and cleared it and spoke with him about it too. And it's just part of being a conscious parent is raising your hand as soon as there might be something a little off, right? So just going into the space of like, oh my gosh, I caught it, right? But then can I go right in that moment and hold myself in integrity and say, you know what, I did this. I accidentally closed down my heart. I accidentally tried to manipulate you to do something. I accidentally tethered you to me through the space of you trying to please me. So I'm asking you to override what you want to do, what feels good to you, and I'm asking you to then please me. Right? So like wow, what does that teach a child and what was that taught to us? Right? Did we go through the better parenting of the blame and shame? Right? So like think of the space in which blame and shame was actually how we were taught to be. This is how we were taught to correct other people's behaviors. People bigger than us, parents perhaps dominating our energetic space with just their physical presence, and then going into the space of blaming, shaming, and guilting to try to get a behavior, to try to get something, right? So this is carrot and stick. And I'm not saying that, it is what it is. Every parent, right? Okay. So every parent will always tell you that they always tried their best. Always. I did my best, right? And so going into the space of, you know what? I do my best too. And if I can hold myself to the space in which I always do the best I can, as soon as I catch myself out of spiritual integrity, outside of the belief system in which I hold to be true in this grandest vision of me, I hold myself to that standard and I say, oh my gosh, I just caught myself. Okay, doorway of freedom, dive in. What is this? Okay, I caught myself going into blame and shame. I caught myself having a conversation with my son in which I was trying to guilt him into pleasing me to do something, right? So, like, oh my gosh, there's this story of blame and shame and guilt sitting in this space. So, just opening up this space a little bit further and going into this space of, well, I always try my best. I always try my best. And sometimes that's just, you get what you get. I always try my best, always, whether I know it or not, because that's what showed up. And what was showed up was my best, because that's what I always do in the moment. I always hold myself to that space. So if we always say, you know what, I always try to hold myself to the highest. And then I also am going to have to assume that other people do so too, because that's just how I believe the world is. Everybody's just trying their best because that's what they did. So that would be part of radically accepting the moment of now. I'm radically accepting this moment of now by stating, and I am like in the Tao, I'm in the flow, I am stating, I always tried my best. There's no resistance. There's no going backwards in time and trying to blame and shame myself. I just say, wow, I found this thing. Let's uncover it a little bit deeper. Right. So as soon as we find something, we're bringing it to the light, we're bringing it to awareness, and we're saying, this is just out of integrity with my truest, highest purpose. So let's shine a little light on it. Let's go a little bit deeper. How did I accidentally show up in blame and shame? How was I parented in blame and shame? How did I accidentally pick up on this as being a way in which I try to accidentally manipulate others to do things that please me? And I want them to override how they feel inside. Right. So not saying wrong or right, just saying as somebody who's going through the awakening process, as somebody who is awakening and turning the consciousness piece on, right? We're just holding ourselves to the integrity of the highest standards. And what this also could then look like is unconditional love. This could look like going even further and accepting this moment of now as perfect. Unconditional love for ourselves, unconditional love. I accidentally showed up out of integrity with my highest self. So I'm just going to lovingly call out my bullshit and be like, yeah, this just happened. Okay, what do we do to deep dive this space? Giving myself the opportunity to deep dive this space, not brush it away and deal with it some other day. This is the work. This is the most important thing. And I hate calling it the work because for me, it's so much fun. It's the doorways to freedom. It's these last little nuggets, these last little stories that we can move out of our energetic fields so we can start living our biggest, brightest, shiniest life. So really going into the space of, okay, everybody's doing the best that they can. I always do the best that I can. We're just radically accepting everybody's nowness because if they could have done better, they would have. So we're just dropping into the space of non-resistance. We're moving into the space of now. And then we're stepping in and releasing this blame and shame and guilt and this duality. So moving into a space of listening to our thoughts, listening to the mental chatter, listening to the inner roommate, listening into that space, and just seeing what's going on in there, right? Building out time to see what's going on in there. And this feels like a journal practice, perhaps. This feels like stuff even a little bit deeper. This feels like this is the space in which spending some time, right? It took how many years to get here to the point where we have all this buildup. So going through and clearing all these old patterns, all these old energies, and allowing yourself to not hold yourself in blame or shame. So if I was to lean into the space a little bit further, it's like not giving yourself the opportunity to show up as your biggest, brightest, shiniest self because you feel tethered to the old you. You feel like people are trying to shame you, like, oh, you're upgrading. Oh, look at you. You're not staying the way that you always have been. Right? Like, how dare you show up differently? Who do you think you are? Right? So, if we start to release the people who are going into our space that we're trying to dominate us through blame and shame and guilt, we might find a space in which they're pushing back. The who do you think you are? Who are you now to stand in the space of holding your energetic field in which you are opening and emanating out, but you're not letting that stuff in anymore. They get to have their reality and you get to have your reality over there. That's perfect. They get their own reality bubble in which they think you're wrong. Good for you. I hope you have a nice day. So many blessings. And I get to sit in a space where maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. Is there something here I can learn? Is there something here that I can do that makes me even further into the space of advantage? Right? So rather than resisting what somebody is trying to put into my space, I am just allowing them to have their space. Okay, you get that reality, the reality in which you think I'm wrong. Awesome. I am so happy for you. I so hope you get to enjoy yourself over there where you think I'm wrong. However, right, I'm sitting here in the space of it doesn't matter, right? Like, what's the solution to the problem? What's going on here? What's the underlying energy? I am not taking in your blame and shame. I am no longer blaming and shaming myself and tethering myself to the old versions of me. I'm allowing myself to drop into this radical moment of now in which I am not going into resistance. I'm not telling myself stories. I'm not closing down my heart so I can go into a space. So opening up your heart space, going into a space in which you are no longer closing down your heart, right? So this would be a space in which you're not telling yourself a story about your wrongness or rightness or victim or not victim, just all these stories we tell ourselves, these stories that close down our heart, that close down our energetic field, that closes everything down, right? And we move into a space of unconditional love, right? Unconditional love. That's great. Good for you. I'm so glad that you're over there miserable blaming me. I'm so grateful that you shared this information with me. Wow, how beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Right? So, not defending. So, when somebody's coming into your space trying to blame or shame, the first thing you want to try to do is like hunker down your energetic field. Like it's like block, stop. It's like pulling your energetic field down and having to stop. And then you're having to justify yourself. So it's the space of like justification. You're like, ooh, hit the brakes. Wait, what? I have to justify myself. I have to fight back against what you think is my wrongness, right? So just opening up this space, and we're just bringing these conversations to your awareness, and that's all. So any space in which you're like, oh my gosh, I accidentally did this, and you're trying to beat yourself up, I ask that we just go ahead and release that story because you always do the best you can. So as of this moment, now we've brought it into the awareness. Now it's an awareness of non-judgment. And so going into the space of awareness and non-judgment. So I ask that the next part of our session where we really dive into the energetic fields, really it's just about awareness and kindness on yourself, kindness on your human, right? You just didn't know. Like, oh my gosh, I just didn't know. Like that hindsight 2020. So stop at the space in which you feel the rejection backwards, in which you have to hit the energetic brakes and stop and beat yourself up. Versus like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My poor human, I always do the best I can. Cool. I'm just bringing this into my awareness field. And then from there, I can then just broaden my awareness of, oh my gosh, I wonder what's going on. Can I catch myself doing it? Can I catch myself doing it and doing it and doing it and finding that original thought, some original belief that's causing and allowing me to go and sit in those spaces, right? So it's just moving the needle backwards. It's setting the set point again even further. So all we're doing is coming into the space of awareness, and we're just being super kind and gentle on our human, because we always do the best we can. So if we do find anything within the energetic fields, and oh, we're going to find some stuff, just be so loving and so gentle and so kind, as if you were just like a little baby toddler, right? Just so gentle and so kind. You just didn't know. You just didn't know. Whew. Okay, beautiful. Well, I guess now that we're wasted, let's go ahead and do our Reiki attunement, our energy transmission. So, real quick, I'm just going to give you the rundown of the space that we're going to go into here next. So this is going to feel like a guided meditation. And we're going to start and go through your chakras, but we're going to actually start in your heart space. And then we're going to move up the different chakras. I'll call them out. And within that space, we're just feeling into that space. And I'm going to assist you with that. And we're going to see if we can loosen up any stories, find any stories that we're ready to release. So we go from the heart all the way up. And then we run you back down, and then we take you down to the lower chakras. And then we bring you back up and we explode your heart out 360 degrees. No big deal. Beautiful. So the last thing to make mention here in this space is, so get as comfy, cozy as possible. There we go. Okay, so we are going to be working with an energetic bonfire. So once you find a something, what I'm saying is resonating with you, something that's attached in your field, you're going to find that belief. You're going to pull it out of your field. You can just use your imagination as if you're pulling it. And we're working with an energetic bonfire. So just imagine you have a piece, like a log, a piece of wood, like you pulled it out of you. It's in your field. It's running around somewhere because it caught your attention and it connected and it landed. And then you just take that, oh, cool, not mine. I'm getting rid of it and throwing it into the bonfire. We're just loosening up this space, right? So I'm going to ask you to throw things into the energetic bonfire. I always connect into the space where it's on my left-hand side, but do whatever's most comfortable for you. And again, we're just using our imagination. So all beautiful and perfect. We're just using our imagination. Okay. So let's take a few moments, just see if we can connect back into our bodies. Clear any initial heaviness. Just kind of bring our body back online. Let's see if we can just take a nice big deep breath in. And when you're ready, a really big deep exhale. Let's do that 2 more times. Let's do a really big deep inhale in. And when you're ready, nice big deep belly exhale out. Ah. One last time, really big inhale in. And nice big belly breath out. Ah. Woo, we already feel better. Okay. So next, let's have you connect into your heart space.